Can you hear me now? There we go. I think you can probably hear me now. Great. Love that. Love that. I have been sitting here chatting with myself for a half an hour, and no one has told me they can't hear me. So I appreciate you, Juliet. I appreciate you very much. Wowza. That's fun. No wonder everybody left. It was like I would get like a viewer and then they would go, and then a viewer and then they would go. But nobody felt like they could inform me that they can't hear me? Rude. Oh, man. Thank you, Juliet. We're better together. That's what I was just talking about. I was talking about what's been on my mind lately is the Writers Guild of America. That's the union that represents writers that work on like TV shows and stuff. They are renegotiating their terms of their contracts because streaming has made everything crazy. And released recently were the... Oh no, I think I might have made an error. I'm going to have to count here. But released recently were like the top 25 CEOs. Yeah, I did a little too much over here. The top 25 CEOs in America and their salaries, which are like 3,000% higher than the average salaries. That like the average person in a network makes like 80 grand a year or something. And the CEOs make $250 million a year. And I just think that's nutso. And I wish people would kind of spread the wealth a little more, because I do think we'd all be better for it. Oh man, do I want to pull all of this out? Yeah, I do. I want to do it the right way. I don't think I've made any mistakes. I made one little mistake on the first one that I caught in real time, like I fixed it. I haven't made any mistakes on any of the others until now, until the streaming where I couldn't even be heard anyway. There's a little quarter stitch in there that needs to come up. That's what's going on. So, anywho'sville, thank you, Juliet, once again, for letting me know that I was unhearable. You guys can watch me pick this out like a crazy person. Tedious. But worth it if you want to get it right. There we go. I tend to pick out from above, just like I tend to almost exclusively stitch from above, because I think it'll make a mess of things if I go too much back and forth and up and down and all around. Just have to remember which order I went in here. There we go. There we go. It's one of the reasons I like to stitch relatively uniformly in rows. Just if there is a mistake, it makes it easier to see where the mistake was, pull it out, fix it, instead of it being this stitch and that stitch and some rows and some full X's and all that, yada, yada, yada. It's good to just stay a little bit organized. Except for right here, apparently. There we go. Well, I'm curious how everybody's doing. Oh, nobody's here. Alas. Part of me thinks it would be fun to like watch a show while I'm stitching. So like we could all have the shared activity, not only of stitching, but of whatever, you know, show we watch all together. That could be fun, and reacting in real time and like so. Oh my goodness, what the heck is going on? Oh, that's right. I did the whole diagonal on its own. Oh my goodness gracious, Lizzie Bean, what have you done? Terrible. The shame, the horror. Oh, good. Juliet says the sound is working. Well, unfortunately, until I get my bearings back with this whole situation, I don't quite know what to discuss of an interesting nature without input from you all. Oops, I could just bop my camera. That's what I could do. I might just cut a new piece because that one might be a little fluffy now that it's been used so much. Don't want any fluffy threads. Can't have that. Oh my goodness. All the stitches that I have to undo to get to that one little point. Ridiculous. All just because I was jabbing away on a microphone that wasn't working and not counting my squares. Silliness, tomfoolery, poppycock, hogwash, malarkey. Come on, come on, come on, come on. There we go. Come on, come on. Well, that was something else that I was doing back when my microphone wasn't working. I was singing anthems, and I proposed having an entire album of cross-stitch related songs, like hype songs for cross-stitchers specifically. Do you think that's something the world needs? I think the world could do well with it. Just my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just a cross-stitcher. I bet cross-stitchers could solve the world's problems. There's a level of patience and artistry required with cross-stitching. I'm going to move my pattern to my primary screen so I can look at it and not my face. It'll be easier to see what I need to do. Okay, Lizzie Bean, count your stinking squares. It's 1, 1, 2. We need a 1, 2, 3. And then we need our little pickup. So, just going to get going right where I left off. There we go. Right through the middle. Okay, we are back on track, ladies and gents. Pull these little tails through, secure them down. Clip this guy back because he's a little out of control. There we go. Okay. Right on. I guess I could tell you all about what's coming up on Stitch People. We've got a book coming out, and I haven't decided what to call it. It was going to be called How to Cross Stitch, which is very basic, very obvious. But then it ballooned, you see. It ballooned into something much, much bigger. And it's become sort of like a Stitch Bible, Stitch Anthology, Stitchlopedia. These are all contenders for titles. The ultimate stitching resource. And yeah, there's the first section is how to cross stitch. It just jumps right into it. But the rest of the sections are all about like all of the options that you have at your disposal to make your own patterns, or all about different types of needles, different types of floss, different types of fabric, what they're all good for, the brief history of stitching, different types of stitches that you can use. It's not necessarily embroidery centric. It is cross stitching focused. And that's why I'm kind of, I don't know what to call it. But our working title, How to Cross Stitch book, that's almost done. It's taken me a lot longer than it should. Oh, there's also a whole section in there for like stretching. So like exercises and stretches that you can do specific for cross stitchers and types of aches and pains and irritations that we get as stitchers, like numb fingers or, tight shoulders, tight whatevers. So there's a whole kind of like, I don't want to say self-care necessarily section, but how to care for yourself as a stitcher. As they say about singers, you are your instrument. So similarly, with that, put a needle in your hands and your physical body is part of your art and your capacity to do that art. So I'm excited for that section. That's the section that's taken the longest, because I gotta get my butt in gear and take all those photos of myself doing stretches as examples so that you can see them. That's coming out. We also have some fun patterns getting released this week. This Thursday, I believe we announced, is going to be, well, there's only 3 of you watching, so I'll tell you. It's going to be tap dance and jazz dance, tap and jazz patterns. It's just a little collection, 3 pages of men, women, children in like various poses, and some costumes that are tap and jazz, of a tap and jazz nature. So those should be really fun. We've also got a whole set of pirates patterns coming out at the end of the month. We've got we've expanded our Irish patterns. So we used to have just like a free, like St. Patrick's Day offering. And we've consolidated that into, well, we've absorbed that into a much bigger offering for Irish patterns that include Irish dancing and Irish folk music. So those will come out in time for St. Patrick's Day, which will be fun, probably next week. And then our spring fling is coming up. That's on the radar. I'm developing a pattern for that. That'll be May 5th, 6th, and 7th. Should be fun. We've got the Stitch People ambassadors on board to give some instruction. And I've got a really great pattern for florals. So we're going to be learning floral techniques. We're going to be learning, oops, here I am just buzzing again and not thinking. Yeah, so the spring fling theme is going to be like April showers, spring's May flowers. So we're going to be talking about watercolor with your fabric and painting on your fabric with watercolors to give it a different look and feel. We're going to be talking about florals, stitching florals on your projects. So spring fling is coming up. We're always working on keeping our, subscriptions going. And yeah. 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, lots of fun things in the works. We're going to have more decades patterns. We just released 1980s. We did a poll on Instagram, and overwhelmingly people wanted 1990s next, which surprised me. I guess many of us millennials are 90s kids, so I shouldn't be too surprised. And then after that, I think we'll do 20s. That got a lot of votes. But we're also going to be working in some historical wear. That's what I'm excited for, like Regency era stitch people and like Victorian era stitch people. I think that'll be really fun. We already have some of those, like our Pride and Prejudice patterns. We've got our Christmas Carol patterns. So if you're in need of historical attire, I mean, there are some places to find that. We also have a ton in our religious and cultural patterns. Like we have traditional Czech Republic and traditional African, traditional Indian and Sikh and Chinese New Year, like a lot of traditional cultural wear that can come in handy if you think outside the box a little. But we'll be doing more, greater collections of that. And this year we'll be doing greater collections of that in a fantasy capacity too. So we'll be doing like Renaissance, medieval kinds of business. Princess Guinevere, King Arthur, ambiguous unnamed princesses of other eras. That kind of thing. So that should be fun. We've got a lot coming down the pipe. It's going to be good. Thinking of doing a houses class this summer. We've done the Halloween house embroidery class. That was really fun last year. We did the year before that a gingerbread house at Christmas time. That was really fun. So I'm thinking we'll do like a summertime beach bungalow this year. Should be cute. Got the Stitch People podcast going. That's going to be wrapping up in just a couple weeks, actually. We've recorded all the podcasts, and it's just a matter of releasing them now. So I think we have 4 or 5 more to release. And that's always fun. I really enjoy those interviews. It's always really fun getting to know people, and man, we all have so much in common, and yet in such unique ways, just people everybody seems to have such a really cute story of how they met their spouse or their partner, and yet all those stories are different, but it's everybody finding their sweethearts, and a lot of people have kids and experience similar things, but all the challenges are still different, and we're all stitchers, and yet we all have different likes and dislikes and strengths and weaknesses. So I really like the Stitch People podcast for that reason, because it just helps you sort of see the commonalities and find yourself in other people, which is really important in today's day and age, when everybody's so fearful of each other and so threatened by one another, and doesn't have to be like that. Just because somebody succeeds doesn't mean that you are failing. I think I might make it on this ecru floss. I'm gonna see how far I get. It's gonna be tight. I may have to change my floss just for these last few stitches. That's gonna be really annoying. Oh well. I hope not. Oh, hello from Winnipeg. Hello, Jen. Thanks for saying hi. Hasn't been a particularly chatty night. People have sort of popped in and out. So it's nice to see somebody in the chat. I appreciate it. You missed a whole opening half an hour where nobody told me that my microphone was on or was off until Juliet told me, and I was able to turn it on. And that's about it. Just kidding. I then summarized what I had been talking about for the last half hour. I had to pick out a big section, not a big section. It was just, I got to about here and realized I had miscounted. So I did have to pick some out. But here we are, and I'm almost done with the background of this lovely little butterfly. And I'm going to try really hard to not have to change my floss here for these literally 2 stitches. Please bless, I can do this. Okay. 1, 2. Oh, Jen says, thanks for doing the weekly stitch along. I look forward to it so much. Thank you for participating. We weren't sure if this was going to be like fun or popular or interesting for people, but I'm glad to be doing it too. Thank you for saying thank you. But yeah, I mean, it's only because everybody chose to kind of participate that we could do it all together. Oh, wait, that's a purple one. Oh, yay. Oh, yay. I don't have to like squeeze that final little piece of floss out. But no, I mean, I totally feel the same way. I've not done stitch alongs myself because I don't stitch consistently enough for it to like work for me. But these little ones, it's not overwhelming for me. And so I've been really enjoying it too because it's something to look forward to. It's always just a little bit different every week. It's fun to get to know everybody who's a part of it. So let's see. I've got my 3712. This is a dead, I probably reuse this bobbin. 3712 is a brown. So anyway, I've got my purple, I've got my 798, I've got my 813 that I'm using instead of 3325, and I've got my 210 instead of 211 because I don't have 211. I think I'm going to do the outline of the butterfly next to get rid of some more of these diagonal stitches. Anyway, all this to say, Jen, I'm so glad you're enjoying it. I am too, and I think a lot of people are, and it's fun to know I'm not the only one working on the little butterfly. You know, we're all kind of stitching along on the same pattern each week, and I got a little behind, but I caught up. And yeah, and here we are. There's no right or wrong, and we're all in this together. Oh boy. Something like that anyway. Dun, 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 dun. I've actually never seen that movie. That's the irony. It's filmed in Utah. I have a bunch of friends who were in it. I have a bunch of friends who were obsessed with it at the time. I know the music from it, obviously, because like everybody knew that song when it was big. But yeah, I've never actually seen it all the way through. I've seen some scenes. My favorite scene that I've seen, I think, is from maybe the second or third High School Musical. There's like an angsty dance off Zac Efron does with himself in a golf course. And that one's like, I don't know what you say, but you get it done. It's like very angsty. It's like, go, Zac Efron, go. I felt tepid about him for a really long time, but I've come around. I'm on the Zac Efron train. Not like super fan, but like, yeah, I can get behind him. I think he's talented. I like his show Down to Earth. I like some of the things I've seen him in. Alrighty. Oh, I just heard Spencer get home. Hello, Spencer!
Hello.
Oh, no.
Stitching?
I am stitching.
Well, I know it's not great stitching.
Oh, man. Look, everybody.
foods.
Limoncello almonds from Costco. Would you open that? I want to have one really bad. Why not? I have one concurrent viewer. I'm sure they won't mind. And everybody watching in the future, well, if you were watching live, then I wouldn't eat limoncello. Just the one. Oh, yeah, okay. He's leaving the bag. Heck yeah. Gulp. Lately, I've been getting these cravings for sweet treats. And it's not like I want something like huge. It's like a little something. I love a chocolate covered almond or pecan. There's like some protein in there or something. It's health food. What else have I been watching? So I've been watching a bunch of shows because of all, I mean, I kind of clued y'all in on the things coming down the pike, books and patterns and all that. So it's been a lot of design work. And then once the designs are done, we have to create covers for them and create product page images, I guess you call it, graphics, and create graphics for social media to announce it and all that. And then plan those so that they release, and it's a whole thing. So I will just often put a show on in the background or a podcast. And lately it's been shows, and I've just been going through a bunch on Netflix, like docuseries. And I've been watching through a whole bunch. Like for a while back, this one wasn't recent, but like we watched that Keep Sweet and Obey, Keep Sweet and Pray, whatever that one is. I just watched the one called Sins of Our Mother, which is very interesting. I watched the one about the Tinder swindler. I think that was on Netflix. And I just finished today this one called like the world's greatest con man, I want to say. Something about a con man. It was recommended to me as being very popular on Netflix. And, you know, like right now, like what people are watching. That one was interesting because it's like this guy who is, I guess, very charming, and he tells people that like he's actually a secret agent, and then he basically just extorts them for money, them and their families, and alienates people from their families for money and power or something, I guess. I don't know. That one was really, really interesting because there's they interview this brother and sister whose mom like fell in love with this guy, and they haven't seen her in like years because he like took her away and turned her against her children. And they wanted to do this documentary as like a cry for help because they're interviewing other people who've been like took by this guy, in hopes that like she might see the documentary and like open her eyes and like come home to them. It's really, really, I mean, it's clearly very sad, but really interesting just how people can get so swept up in things. That the latest one that I'm watching, I started because I finished that con man one. So I started this one called Don't Pick Up the Phone. And it was about this real story of a criminal who over the course of like 10 years would he would buy, this was from like the early 90s to the early 2000s. So he would buy these prepaid calling cards, and he would use them to make calls from payphones. And he'd call like restaurants and fast food chains and convince the managers there that their employees, or in some cases, customers, had like stolen somebody's purse or stolen money, and that they needed to either be brought down to the station, or they could do like a search there on site that the manager could do. And it worked, like unbelievably. This guy was able to convince people because he claimed he was police, and people believed him. And like, so he convinced these managers to like do like strip searches of their employees, looking for drugs and looking for money. And then of course they find out that like this was just a racket, that there was nothing to it at all. He wasn't real police. And then the managers are on the line for like harassment and just this whole terrible situation. And they're getting into the psychology a little bit of like how this happens, how people let things get this far. You know, how would a manager being told by just some rando on the phone go through with something like this? And they talk about this study, I guess, that was done in I want to say the 60s, where the subject, there's only one subject of the study, but they are told they are one of two subjects. And in the study, the actual subject reads questions to an actor who he is told is the other subject. And if the actor subject gets it wrong, then the subject of the experiment is supposed to press a button. They're told it gives like a shock of electricity to the other person who got it wrong. And they found that like when put in a situation like this, these people would administer like massive, what they believed were massive shocks of electricity to these unsuspecting people on the other side. Well, not unsuspecting. I mean, they were told they were part of the experiment. They knew the deal. And they were actors, so they would like scream and like, no, stop, please stop, stop shocking me. They weren't actually being hurt, but the subjects didn't know that. And so the psychology is that like under certain circumstances, like we will do things that we don't agree with. We will go along with things because we trust authority, or we're scared of repercussions in some other way. Like, it's just really, really interesting how good people can fall prey to like wacky people who will take advantage of people's goodness. I think the majority of people are good. I think the majority of people have good intentions, but I do think there are some people who take advantage of that. It's a very scary thing. So a lot of these documentaries sort of have that in common, where there's like kind of a negative influence. I don't want to say like bad person straight up, but a negative influence, a person with ill intentions who kind of takes advantage of a situation for power, for whatever else. It's just fascinating. So yeah, that one's called Don't Pick Up the Phone. If you're interested in like psychology. I wouldn't even call that one. That one does definitely have a crime element to it, but I mean, they all do, con men and whatnot. But yeah, that's what I've been watching. All sorts of things. I mean, yeah, I guess all of these ones that I've been watching have that in common. It's people, following a charismatic leader, or people being conned by somebody they think is in love with them or convinces them to be in love with them, and just for money, I guess. In a lot of cases, it comes down to money. An interesting world we live in, isn't it? Wish it didn't come down to money. Man, I give away all this Stitch People stuff for free. If I could. It's like we're trained a little bit to take advantage, right? Like when something's for free or on sale or coupons or whatever, like, you know, people, we go crazy for it because that's what we're kind of trained to do. A lot of us grow up with like parents who do couponing and scrimp and save, you know, middle class life. It's hard to unwire that stuff. And I think that's why, like, when people are put in positions of power, especially where they get a lot of money, you think you won't be a bad apple, but I think a lot of people, it's like when you're a kid, at least when you were a kid in the 80s and 90s, you had to do the DARE program, right? And you had to like rehearse scripts of how to say no to drugs before they were offered to you, so that when they were offered to you, which for the record, not once in my entire middle school or high school life was I ever offered drugs. That's another story. But the idea is when drugs are offered to you, you've practiced the script, you know what to say to get out of there and, you know, to resist peer pressure or whatever. I think we should run through similar scenarios of wealth, like mega wealth, the kind of wealth that corrupts people, that like, should you ever be in an opportunity where you can make millions upon millions of dollars per year, how will you respond? How will you be a good steward of those resources for the betterment of the world and your communities? Let's just practice those scripts before we're even in that situation. That's what I say. But it ain't up to me, unfortunately. Bums me out too is just how black and white things have become. People used to like be interested in compromise. People sort of used to understand that balance is key, that we shouldn't just try and swing the pendulum from left to right to left to right every 4 years in this country. That like there are two sides of a coin for a reason, and we balance each other out, and like slow and steady wins the race. And just because a different political party than yours proposes something doesn't make it inherently bad. Go figure. Like, where did that go? Because like at the end of the day, we all just want to be happy. We all just want to be happy and live our lives. Pretty sure. We just have different expectations around that and different ideas of how to go about doing it. So let's work together so everybody wins. And make it illegal to make $250 million a year as your salary. That's too much money. No individual needs that. I'm sorry. People make it work to live on like $40,000 a year. Let's not get it twisted. Nobody needs that much money. Oh gosh. I'm just reeling on that stat. I mean, when you hear that like CEOs make more than everybody else, I'm thinking like 15 million. like which is still a ridiculously laughable amount of money. No. $250 million salary. I can't. That is $250 million. Let's not forget that. $1/4 of $1 billion. Which I think I read a thing, like people, there gets to be these numbers that like humans literally can't wrap their brains around certain numbers and how big they are. Like, to put it in perspective, I'm pretty sure the stat was comparing 1 million to 1 billion. That if you counted one number every second that passes to get to 1 million, it would take you like 11 days or something like that. Like 1 million seconds is about 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 30 years. Let that sink in. And that's just 1 billion. So then you think about the individuals and corporations that have that much money, and it's like, what are we even doing? I think they say it would take like $6 billion to solve like hunger in the United States. That's it. In comparison, 6 billion of many billions is not that much. But no, we can't do that. We've got to buy yachts and multi-million-dollar homes because that makes sense. Anyway, like I said, I read that stat today and I am a little bit shocked by it. I just can't shake it. Look it up. 25 most overpaid CEOs in the world. Pretty gross. Especially in light of the fact that, like, I think your average Joe, if like any of you watching or listening or I were to like get a sizable chunk of change, like $250 million, I dare say a lot of us would help our families and friends and communities, It's like, why aren't the people who have that doing that when the people who would like to have that would do that? Just don't make no sense to me at all. Oh, Jen, you can ask any question you like. I'm literally just blabbing because nobody's asking questions or saying anything in the chat. So please ask away. And I don't have to blab about overpaid CEOs. Wish I was an overpaid CEO. $1 million stitch people. Yeah, right. But yeah, feel free. Anybody watching can always ask. Please. How do you pick which pattern submissions make it in the stitch along? Every single one makes it into the stitch along so far. Full disclosure, we opened up submissions for the stitch along on Stitch People Day. That was September 29th last year. We had submissions open till I think the first week of December. I think the cutoff was like December 2nd or 5th or something. It was like a Friday, first Friday in December. I don't know. It made sense at the time. And we got around 20 submissions. That's it. So they all made it in. And if you notice, the last page of, I think, this week's submission. Yeah. This week for sure has it. And the next few weeks we'll have a third page about submitting your design. Because we would ideally like to have a little square every week till the end of the year. We launched this the second week of the year. So the first week, I think, was the various layouts that you can choose from to like how you want to lay out your pattern squares. Well, the first week, I guess, was holiday. And then we did the layouts. And so the weekly designs started the third week of the year. So there, all that to say, 52 weeks in a year. First 2 weeks did not have squares, meaning there will be 50 squares total. We would like to have 50 squares total. So please submit if you would like to. The requirements are pretty basic. It's basically just no more than 10 colors and fill the 14 by 14 inch square. And let me think. Oh yeah, and just like nothing vulgar, like the snarky stitching is kind of in right now and stitching swear words, but like, so like maybe none of that, but otherwise pretty much anything will make it in. Right now at the bottom of the pattern, it was like, we really thought we might get like 100 submissions. And so it was like, oh, we don't know what we're going to do if we get that many. So at the bottom, it's like, we may not be able to use them all. I think maybe that might've scared people away. We just sort of wanted to encourage like a first come, first serve kind of a situation. Just my backup almonds. But yeah, so if you're interested, oh, my camera just said low battery. Anyway, if you're interested in submitting, please submit. Because yeah, currently, every single one. That's the litmus test. If you submit it, it gets in. If we reach the point where we have more than 50 for the year, which I don't think that's right. Oh, Jen says, I submitted one. I hope I did it right. And I'm nervous. Jen, I'm going to look yours up right now on the spot because I can. So, let's see. Unless you submitted it within the last week. Because I'll do like, there's like a form on the website, so I'll download them in batches. Submissions. Oh, Jen S. Are you Jennifer? Let me see. I know the last is Chick. Sturzelchick? My maiden name is Deb Chinsky with a CZ. So that doesn't scare me, but it's the RZ I'm not sure about. So Jen, if that's you, let's see. Yours is underway being converted. Okay, a few weeks back. Awesome. So yeah, currently we have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, 25, 26, 27. So we have 27. So we're good through the middle of the year. And I'll pull yours up just to see what it is. Because why not? And we'll see if you did it right. I'm sure you did it right. It's not, I mean, it's basically, if you don't have a program, you can color by number. I do think people get overwhelmed because there's a lot of people who do like make and sell patterns. But the whole point is just getting to know each other and doing something fun. Jen! Oh, I like that a lot. You guys. Yeah, guys. It's really cool. It's like very bold colors. Red and yellow and green and black. And white. Oh, that's fun. And it's like stripy. It's like pattern. Let's see. Oh, Ukrainian Canadian. Oh, Jen. Do you live in Canada? Do you have family in Ukraine? Oh, my heart. Ukraine has color shapes and patterns. I'm so glad. I'm so glad I read your bio and that you're the one who's here chatting with me. I've been learning you go. Привіт. Добрий день, Jen. What is it? Evening. Добрий вечір. I've been trying to learn Ukrainian because I want to be able to read the news coming out. Let's see if I can remember my prompts here. Я розмовляю трохи українською. We'll see if that gets me anywhere. Я, let's see, розумію трохи українською. А ви? Anyway, I love your traditional pattern. And I want to hear everything about Ukraine. It had crossed my mind at the beginning of the year. I know we just hit 1 year of the terrible, terrible war happening. And I was going to try and throw together a event is the word I'm looking for about, because cross-stitching is huge, as you know. A lot of people don't know that like cross-stitching is a massive, massive tradition in Ukraine. And I thought it would be really, really cool if we could do some sort of event about Ukrainian stitching and maybe even do like a little like Ukrainian language, like phrases, easy phrases to learn, or if you could do a little history, and then if we could do just stitching and talk about the different Ukrainian motifs and why stitching is so important, and that a portion of those proceeds could go to relief. I follow a lot of volunteers. My personal Instagram is kind of a bummer because I post about the war a lot because I feel like people aren't posting enough. So I post a lot about what's going on there, and I follow a lot of volunteers. I did a chocolate drive. We raise money for Ukrainian chocolate makers. I have some contacts there, and we were able to send chocolates to Eastern Ukraine for Christmas time, which was really cool. And we did another drive for like a orphanage in where are they based? It's called Misto Dobra. It's in maybe Lviv, or is that where the chocolate makers are? Anyway, one of our protein bar guys made protein chocolate bars for soldiers. He's in Dnipro. It's been really cool to get to know people over there. And I follow a lot of volunteers. I follow a Canadian volunteer, actually. He's the one that I kind of got involved with first doing the fundraiser. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So Jen says she's worried because it wasn't a thing like a tiger butterfly. Yeah, next week's is totally geometric. So you'll fit right in. You'll fit right in. So anyway. Yeah, it's funny when I'm doing Ukrainian on like I'm doing Pimsleur's Ukrainian course, and I think I'm on a 210-day streak on Duolingo, which I know is like basic, but I can count to 100. I feel like if I went to Ukraine, or if I, was out and about, met a Ukrainian person, I could communicate touristy stuff. Like I could talk about going to eat, ordering food, how much I owe and need to pay, and shopping and directions, that kind of, well, not directions. I can say like where is and here and there, and I can stations and restaurants, that kind of thing. I'm still not good with like north, south, east, west, but I feel like when I'm doing like the call and response, I can do really well, but coming up with it on my own in the moment is totally different. So it's like I need different context so that I can learn it outside of just like repeating on the app. Because when I have like the nice Ukrainian lady and she's like, what do they call each other? There's I can't remember. There's a man and a woman, and they always talk to each other. Добрый день. She always says Добрый день. What's his Victor? I think that Добрый день, Victor. Добрый день. And I can mimic it really well because I'm a good impressionist. I'm a good actor. I sometimes worry that I'm just good at like repeating and not absorbing, if that makes sense. So sometimes I'll do the lessons twice just to make sure I understand it. Два пива, будь ласка. Два пива. Так. Or, yeah. So I don't know. I'd love to have an excuse to use it. But I think if I were like out in the wild, just like having to come up with the phrases on my own, I'd be like, oh. But I never learned a language before. So it's been, I really do. I want to be able to understand, when I see a Ukrainian article or hear a Ukrainian interview, I'd love to be able to understand without translation. I'm sure I'm far way off from that, but till then, it's an interesting thing to learn. My last name, Debczynski, is Polish. My great grandparents. So my father's father was born in America, but his parents were born in Poland. They came over 1913, I want to say, Ellis Island kind of business. Trying to see, I feel like I might have done something wrong. Maybe. No. This will be a square. And a diagonal. No, I'm on track. Anywho'sville. Yeah, so my my ancestors are Polish. And I think that's too why the conflict going on there in Ukraine today. I mean, it's just next door. It's and a lot of the traditional Ukrainian garb is similar to like the little things that my grandma would give to us as kids. She'd dress us up, and because she inherited things from my great grandma, and my great grandfather had to go back and fight Oh my goodness, guys, Spencer with the treats. He also got coconut. No, well, if you're leaving me with these, you have to take these. I can't have both. That's bad. Spence, come look at this. Jen is Ukrainian. She's chatting with me right now.
No
and
way.
Yes, and I think she understood some of my very terrible phrases. But check this out. Her pattern is like a cool geometric, like Ukrainian tradition. Like it harkens to that. Let's see, stitch along submissions. Guys, I tell you what, if you ever run a cross stitch pattern company, get your file management under control. This has been an ongoing struggle. So yes. Okay, source. Her pattern is so cool. You're gonna love it. Your pattern. Oh, that's you. Oh, there you are. I'm just looking at your picture, Jen. I accidentally pulled up your picture instead of your pattern, and you're in one of the cross stitch tops. I'm not sure if there's a special name for them. I love them. I think they're so beautiful and would take so many ages to stitch. Yeah, check out this cool pattern.
Whoa.
Isn't that neat?
Wow.
It's like a border, and there's like a. Y'all are just gonna have to wait to see it for the stitch along.
That's really cool.
Really, really cool.
Jen, well done.
Yeah, I knew he'd like it. Anywho, I'm glad you're hanging out, Jen. Yeah, Poland has been so helpful to Ukraine. I mean, strategically, it's very smart of them, because if Ukraine were to have a difficult time succeeding, then Poland's next, because they're just right there. But yeah, so I mean, the story that I've been told in my life is that my great-great-grandmother came over by herself when she was like 13. Her older sister was supposed to go and then got cold feet. And at the last minute, my great-grandma was like, I'll go, which I think is so cool, so brave. And then the man she married was also Polish. I can't remember how he came over, but he had to go back. Maybe it was World War I. He had to go back and fight for Poland. And he was like one of 4 brothers. And I think he was the only one who lived. He was like sending money. So I don't know. I just, my Eastern European roots are strong. I love Polish food. I love pierogies and globki and kielbasa and all the things. My dad raised me with a very good appreciation for that part of my ancestry. So let's see, Vishvanka. I'm not sure what that means. See, but I can say it. I'm actually quite pleased. What I like about Ukrainian versus Polish as language is I like that it uses Cyrillic alphabet, because I always found that to be very intimidating. And I was like, man, anybody who can read that, brilliant. And now I can. I can at least pronounce it. I might not always know what I'm saying, but I can read it. I can sound it out. And my instincts for when to use the Cyrillic, if I'm listening or if I'm meant in one of my lessons to transcribe something, like my instincts for when to use those letters and characters is pretty good. Not perfect, but just give myself a little kudos for catching on, because at first I was very, very nervous, very overwhelmed. But it's just different letters, that's all. Go figure. I really like the Cyrillic L character. Whoop, whoop. Or the little U. I love that shape. Line dash circle. Jen, are you from oh, Vishvanka is what the embroidered shirts are called. Oh, cool. I love that. Are you from Ukraine originally? Are you from Canada with Ukrainian ancestry? I'm curious. Anyway, I think I got caught off guard to not finish my thought. I was thinking it'd be cool to do a Ukraine benefit event. That's what I was getting at. And that because Ukraine has such strong history of cross-stitching and embroidery, but especially cross-stitching, that would be a really fun thing to rally the community around. And if people have a problem with it, then they can, I can't say what I'm thinking probably live and publicly, but if people have a problem with supporting a war-torn area and millions of people whose lives are in total flux, if they're lucky enough to be alive at all, supporting those people, if anyone has a problem with that, then they can start their own business and run their own events to support the causes that they want to support. That's how I'll say that. This, you see people post things online, whatever it is, you know, somebody will post about Ukraine and people will comment like, what about Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq? And then you see people post about, you know, the earthquakes in Turkey and they're like, what about Ukraine? And then like multiple disasters can be happening at once. There are a lot of people talking about all of the things, and like just because you're posting about one thing doesn't mean you don't care about another thing. And frankly, no one single person in the world has enough time or energy to care about 100% of all of the terrible things going on in the world. It's impossible. That's why there are 8 billion people. If 8 billion people care about the regions that they have ties to, that pull at their heartstrings, then we'd all be taking care of each other instead of fighting about what cause we should be supporting for who and blah, 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 blah. How about all suffering is bad, no matter where or why, and let's just do whatever we can within our own power to make positive change in the world. How about that? I don't know. It just seems like a place we could start. Anyway, I get worked up, folks. I get worked on up about things. Let's see. Oh, good. So Jen says, for those who are in the chat, that she's born in Winnipeg, but she has family in Ukraine that she speaks to weekly, which is lovely. I'm glad that you're able to stay in touch. It's a very scary situation. I think people just don't understand the wide-reaching ramifications of that situation. I won't even pretend to say that I understand them, but I know they're there, and I know the broad strokes of why it's very important that Ukraine succeed. Because it's bigger, as things usually are. It's usually not about the thing that they want you to think it's about, right? Like, you know, the news or whatever. Like, people are often just fed the easiest stories because we're humans and we have short attention spans, and a lot of us aren't all that bright. And so we get these watered down versions of things that simplify very, 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 very complicated situations. And from what I've read, Ukraine's been dealing with this for centuries, like every 30 to 50 years, which is BS. It makes me very angry. Just everybody leave everybody alone. But. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Lynn says, I agree with you totally about the support of Ukraine. Thanks. I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool to do an event. I get trigger shy because the keyboard warriors on the internet are strong, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, if somebody has a problem with somebody else supporting a cause for people who are suffering, like, hey, that's really messed up that anybody would have. Like, yes, there are terrible things happening in Iraq, and I hope, like, yes, people can do fundraisers to support that. There are terrible things happening in a lot of places. I hope people are doing things to support their local communities and whatever, you know, homeless or hungry populations are there. So, you know, we do what we can, how we can, where we can. Oh boy. Oh, I follow this animal group too in Ukraine. They're doing such good work. Oh shoot, what are they called? Vet Pluriton is what it is. VETPLURITON. And they're going around trying to save the homeless animals now that have been left behind, run away because of the conflict. It's massive. It's wild. Just the ecological impact of what's going on. Just taking out forests. Just Forests gone. Forests that were there and are no more. There's full ecosystems just being destroyed. Bad news. Like I said, a lot of the words that I would use to describe it, I probably shouldn't say live on YouTube for the Stitch people. But this is the benefit, I guess, if you want to call it that, of hanging out with me live on YouTube, is you never know what you're going to get. It's a little less polished than the squeaky, ready to go, very well lit event Lizzie, Sip and Stitch, or, Spring Fling, talking to the masses, the cross-stitch masses far and wide. There's only a couple of us here, so what's the word? I have the illusion that I can be more frank, even though this is being recorded and will be posted later, and other people will be able to watch it whatever they want. But you know what? Great. Quote me, and make me go viral for saying that we should support people who are suffering. Please, internet, I dare you to take me down for that. That's the thing, is there's a lot of people who are like, well, but did you know that Zelensky blah, 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 or like, did you know that Putin blah, blah, blah? And it's like, sure, fine, I don't care. There are hundreds of millions of people suffering anyway. Like, not that those bigger inside reasons and things or whatever don't matter. They absolutely do. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't help the normal everyday people who are made to cope with the choices of our leaders, you know? Like, multiple things can be true at the same time. Even multiple conflicting things. Spencer, for example, is always too warm all the time. And I'm always too cold all the time. And those things can be true for each of us when we are sitting side by side in the same room. How does that work? But, you know. Oh, Jen, she says, I hope there can be peace. I agree. Have a lovely bedtime. It is getting late. I will be done with this one soon. I think this one's just taking a little extra time because there's all these diagonals. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, Jen. I can't wait for your pattern to go live. That'll be so fun. And thanks for chatting. Do побачення. I do know how to say goodbye in Ukrainian. Dobry вечір. Good evening. I don't know if you can say dobry вечір as a farewell greeting, but do побачення. Lynn, where are you from? Where are you hanging out from tonight? Where I'm at in Utah, we got a bunch of snow recently, which is, it's been fun. It's been a very, very snowy year, more snowy than like many years past. The ski resorts have been very happy about it. And I don't mind it. I don't mind the snow. It's funny. I mean, it's like March. It should be spring soon. But a good spring will be a result of a wet winter, I think. So. This butterfly is turning out very beautifully, though. When I do diagonals like that, I like to just separate the existing diagonal with a fingernail, just to make sure things lay side by side, nice and flat. Oops, I felt a knot. Not really a knot, a little pull, a little gather, a little loop-de-loop. Easy breezy, lemon squeezy. So yeah, just push aside the diagonal that's already there to make room for the diagonal that's going to share the space. Oh, Lynn in Tennessee. Thank you for reminding me, Lynn. I feel like you've hung out with me here before, and I probably asked you that before, but I forget. I wish I would say in like username, like Lynn of Tennessee. The butterfly, yeah, this one's taken me a while. I'm surprised. I flew through the tiger faster than I thought I would. I think the tiger took me like an hour. Not even, maybe right around an hour. Strawberry took me a little longer than that. I think it's because of the diagonals, the little half stitches, and just making sure that you're getting everything right. Yeah, this butterfly is kind of doing the same thing. And I realized I missed a little bit of a ecru in the bottom diagonal area. So I'm going to have to double back with a little ecru, fix it on up. Okay, that wants to pull. I don't like that. So I'm going to, sometimes I do stitches in a more out of order kind of way so that I can prioritize the diagonals, or I can prioritize the fluffiness of the thread. Sometimes too much. So if I, instead of going straight over, I go up and over, I can kind of tuck the threads in as I go, you know, that kind of stuff. So occasionally I'll do things that maybe don't make immediate sense, but it's for the greater good and organization of the thing. Yeah, the half stitches, seriously, they're killer. They look great. I mean, the pattern's cute and it's going to look amazing when it's done, but yikes. It's, for me too, as much stitching the half stitches as it is counting them. And I guess it makes sense. We're doing almost twice as many stitches on the squares that have diagonals, right? Because you have to stitch at least a full diagonal, if not a diagonal and a quarter with one color. And then you go back and do 1 or 2 more stitches of the other color. So that's 4 stitches to the square, a half, a quarter, and a quarter, if you're doing it that way, which is more than a square usually gets. Usually it's just the 2 stitches. So I think what I'll do is finish up all this blue, and then I'll do the ecru that I need to go back and finish, because it'll bum me out to do that last, because I did it first, and you don't want to have to go back and do more of the first thing last or something. Then I'll fill in the purples. I think Debbie said she really likes purples and blues, and like that was just the inspiration for her color palette, which I really like that. I love just like choosing something you love because you like it. Why not? Yeah, good practice, Lynn says about the half stitches. Oh, that's the silver lining way to look at it. Okay, done with the blue. Nice. Okay, back to ecru land. Just going to do a little length of floss here. Okay, Spencer brought these in and I realized I don't think I tried the coconut ones. Oh man. Yep. Those are very good. Wowza. They're a little bit salty. Wasn't. Ooh, Spencer just said they're dark chocolate. So it's an almond covered in coconut, covered in dark chocolate. And I'm pretty sure it's a salted almond, like a lightly salted almond, because there's some salt in there. And boy, that was delicious. Those are going to be a problem. Those are going to be a problem. Ooh, boy. Well, if you have a Costco near you, ladies and gents, run, don't walk to get the coconut dark chocolate covered almonds. Yum. Yummaroony. Those are really good. They're really soft too. I wasn't expecting that. Do, do, do. Just more half stitches. It's a half stitch kind of night. Trying to think what I'll do after this. Probably have some dinner, even though I'm eating some treats. We haven't yet had like official dinner. So we'll do that. And then probably watch a show. We've been watching through Cheers, working our way. It's probably been a few weeks that I've said that every time, but it's true. We're still just, yeah, making our way in the world today. It's taking everything we've got. We just got into the season with Chrissy Alley for the first time. I've never watched Cheers all the way through, so it's been really fun. Making you live all your, taking your break from all your troubles sure would help a lot. Would you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go. Turn it into a rock anthem. Everybody knows your name. Okay, cool. Let's see. Where are we? We need this light purple for the wings, and then I'll go through, fill the little polka dot background and the black detailing, and then we'll call it a night. It's fun to hang out. Man, cool about Jen. I figured her last name was Polish because mine has that CZ in it. But I guess a Ukrainian name spelled out in the Latin alphabet would also use that CZ potentially instead of the ch symbol, which we don't have in our alphabet. Interesting that they would use the CZ to spell the name instead of just like Englishizing it to CH. It's like a cool middle ground. You never know what you're gonna get on a hang out and stitch the stitch along night. Lynn says, I was watching Cheers, it was actually on TV. I probably was too. I probably just don't remember. I think my parents watched it. My parents were big into Seinfeld. That was the big show at my house growing up. I think Seinfeld would have been after Cheers, so I bet my parents watched Cheers before they watched Seinfeld. Oh, Lynn, I was so glad when Diane left. I did not like Diane very much. It was like cute at first, but then the on again, off again, it just went on for so long that it was like, will they, won't they, will they, won't they, will they, won't they. Thank goodness for Frasier Crane, though. I mean, that's a show that I am aware of and watched back in the day, but I didn't know, because that went on longer than Cheers did. I think, it started a few seasons into Cheers, and then Cheers ended, and that one kept going for a while. I didn't know that he started on Cheers, which is so cool. But yeah, then Diane, oh my gosh, she's just very controlling, very, very controlling person, and I just found that to be very exhausting. So when she left, I was relieved. I like Rebecca a lot. Can relate to a lot of her, just trying to prove herself and trying to be professional and good at her job, and even though she's just like a normal goofy lady like the rest of us. It's a hard thing, especially for women. You want to be taken seriously and you want to, show up in the world and be seen a certain way. You got a lot of strikes against you just by being a gal. It's like I read the headline I woke up to this morning. I opened my phone, laying in bed, and I read that this girls basketball team, 5th grade girls, in Alabama were told, and like this is current, this just happened, this is 2023. They were told they couldn't use like the rec facilities in their town for their practices or something unless they joined the basketball league, which in their town is like traditionally a boys league. And the girls were like, okay, we'll join the league. They win first place and were denied the trophy because, well, you're not boys. So, you know, we can thank Rebecca back in the 80s for trying to make it easier for future generations, but man, that stuff is still around today, and it's wild to me. I was like, oh, you can't win this, it's a boys league. What? But you said they couldn't do it unless they joined. Gotta love a moving target. Gotta love it. But yeah, I also was feeling bad for Sam, because even when he's engaged to Diane, they are engaged to be married. They are making plans. He's like joking about, and it's more than like ball and chain jokes. You know what I mean? Like he's joking about the misery he's going to be experiencing the rest of his life. And it's like, yeah, love is a very complicated thing. Just because you love someone doesn't mean you have to spend the rest of your life with them. So when she finally goes off to be a screenwriter in California, I do not mind, man. Whew. She's just someone who, I don't know, I feel like I know some people like that who don't listen, like their interpretation of events is always the correct one, right? Like even when they don't have all the information, like they won't trust anyone else's interpretation of events. Anyone else is wrong. It's always about how they perceive it, and it's just exhausting. But yeah, we'll see where Christy Alley goes. No spoilers. 30 years later. I'm totally kidding. I know she has a baby at some point with who? I'm not sure. What's funny is we started this series. Spence, what's that series with the curly redhead and Adrian Brody? Poker Face. Poker Face is the name. New series on Peacock, I think. And it's about, the idea is this gal is kind of a nomad, like lives out of a car. She's on the go. And she's got this gift that she just knows when people are lying. Like it kind of, I call it a psychic ability or something, but like she just always knows 100% without a doubt when people are lying or not. And there's always mishaps and mayhem that surround her. And, you know, it's kind of a murder mystery show. Like there's always a murder to be solved, and she always happens to be on the scene and can help solve it because she knows who's lying. And I mean, we're a few seasons into Cheers, but this is something that we've been doing kind of, I guess, since the end of last year, early this year. And who pops up in episode number 2? The actor, whose name I can't remember, but he plays Cliff Clavin. And it's like a modern day show. So he's like very old now. Not very. I mean, he, comparatively speaking, he's maybe, I don't know, 70? 70 is the new 60, as they say. But yeah, he's relatively older than he was. And it was just like, wait a second. We're watching him in another show. And we usually watch like an episode of Cheers almost every night lately. Just, you know, they're 20 minutes long, and it'll be like, we'll watch one and then maybe watch something else and go to bed. And so we had already watched a Cheers, and it was like, wait, what? There he is. It was just really fun to see. Cool that he's still working, still acting. We watched The Good Place with Ted Danson. That was my first Ted Danson show, was The Good Place. Gosh, I like that show. That show gets it. Just gets it. Comedy, life, all of it. Do you ever notice that you stitch faster when you realize you're like close to the end of a pattern? Like right now I can feel my pace like, yeah. Because I'm like getting close to the end. I don't know if I'm actually speeding up, but I sort of feel like I am. Uh-oh. And my battery is about to die, so the timing is excellent. Yeah. It's like a race. Like at the end of a race, you like sprint to the finish line. It's kind of how it feels stitching. I need to practice my half stitches. I realize so many half stitches and diagonals in this pattern look a little bit disheveled. Not that that's a bad thing, but I could stand to clean them up ever so slightly. Well, there we go. All I need is the black detailing, and then that one's done. How cute! I like the little, like purple polka dots in the background. This is a really cute pattern. Well done, Debbie. Now the question is, how many strands should I use? I think I'll do 2. I did the details of the tiger in 3 strands, but it's because I already had 3 strands, like for his eyes and the stripes, and I was like, oh, I'll just do 3. But I like the idea of the butterfly being a little more delicate. So up here we've got the little antenna. Catch the tail. Now the question is, do I want to do just a big, long, I think I do. I think I want to do one big, long straight stitch. And because I'm only using 2 strands, I don't want them to separate. So I'm going to twist, actually, intentionally. Intentionally twist so that they don't separate and look like 2 distinct threads, like I do have up here on that antenna. Boop, boop. There we go. And we'll tie that through the back, clip it off, and call it a night. We did it. Huzzah! Hold it up nice and close there to the camera. Lovely. It's really, really cute. Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for stitching with me. Thanks for letting me know my microphone was off. Sorry about that. And thanks for chatting about all the things. I think we officially solved the world's problems tonight, and all while stitching a butterfly. So anywho, without further ado, I'm going to log off and watch some cheers and eat some dinner. I hope you have a good evening wherever you are in the world, whether you're watching now or later. Lynn in Tennessee, enjoy your night. Everybody go out to Costco and get some of these coconut dark chocolate covered almonds. You won't be sorry. And without further ado, I shall say ta-ta until next week. Bye for now, friends. See you later.